there's an innate amount of confidence that comes to every individual when they're fitter. We all get into it for vanity. Every single human being. Fitness for me is,
let's be honest, being fit is not something all of us are internally motivated to do. But to find a way to really make fitness a part of your lifestyle, you got to really dig in deep and understand how you can actually bring those elements in, really find things you can truly enjoy and make a part of your day-to-day life, not just because you have to, because you want to. I spoke to Sohrab Khushrushahi sometime back, the founder of Sohfit. But how to kind of make this happen? And I'm dropping that entire episode for you guys to check out on this week's episode of Take a Pause. I'm Varun Duggi. This is Take a Pause, but make sure before you go to that chat, you hit subscribe and smash that bell icon. On to my chat. Hey Sohrab, welcome to Take a Pause. I'm excited that we're doing this.
hey Varun, equally excited. I'm not. I've been on the other side when it comes to talking to people about health, but never been behind the mic. So this should be interesting.
I still remember, and I know I was kind of thinking about just the whole fitness mindset right the other day, and you and I have. I mean, you guys have been a part of my fitness evolution over the last 6-8 months or so, because I found a love for fitness beyond what it used to be a couple of years ago. But I think in the last 6-8 months, I've really focused on performance. I've really focused on a bunch of things. And a lot of that's come from, I think, the conversations we've had, the work I've done with you and the team at Sohfit. But I want to kind of start off by asking you, was physical activity, fitness always a love? Was it always something which you gravitated towards?
I mean, ever since I was a kid, I think for me, movement has been a part of my life from the day I can remember. I've always been obsessed with just moving, with just playing a sport or doing something. So in that sense, it's been in my system since I was a kid. I think we were lucky. Our generation was a little lucky. We came up in a generation where the TV wasn't as prevalent. The internet wasn't as prevalent. So if you wanted to kind of do things with your life, you just had to go down and play. You couldn't stay at home. You'd get bored after a point in time. And sport was something that I kind of naturally gravitated towards. Cricket being my choice. But it was just a way of life for me. It's not like someone's ever forced me to do it. I think it's just been a natural progression. I started training, entered a gym at the age of 13 or 14 with my friends for the first time. And I've not looked back since.
Yeah. That's an interesting age, right? I think at 13, 14, and I remember the first time I went to the gym. I feel we all went to a gym we found, and the first thing you wanted to do was bench press and biceps. I think that's what we all that is technically what all of us would do, right? You'd say, okay, can I do bench press? Can I do bicep curls? And you just do that, feel happy about it, come back. And weirdly enough, physical activity, at least for me in school, was like, okay, fine, we have to do it. It wasn't really a thing. So I think I came from a very surface level perception of fitness. I think a lot of us have that. And I know you speak about the fact that it's not just about looking at it from a surface level. But let's say if I'm someone today who's like, okay, I want to look at this in a different way. I don't want to look at this the way I seem to have looked at it. Some of this vanity metrics. Okay, this is my bicep size, or this is and all that stuff. So was that a conscious shift that you went through, and how do you kind of tell people about this shift? Because I think that's a super important one to kind of tap onto.
First, I mean, let's not lie, okay? We all get into it for vanity. Every single human being. I think I think most of us would be lying if we said that we went to a gym just for the sake of it or just because we enjoyed it. No, when we all started out, me included, it was vanity, okay? Slowly, as you kind of get better at it, things change, right? Then performance becomes more important, because how long are you going to keep looking at yourself in the mirror? I mean, I shouldn't be asking that question. I'm pretty sure people can do that all the time. But the point is, performance becomes another high you start chasing. Then you start looking at numbers in terms of your own performance, in terms of how much you're lifting or or how you're moving and how quickly you're moving, and all those things start taking over. And it's fine to kind of start in one particular direction. It's fine to enter the gym because you want to look a certain way. I don't think people should kind of categorize that as
Mm.
a bad thing. I think it's totally fine, as long as it gets you through that door. Because once it gets you through that door, and once you see yourself change over a period of time, right, Varun, you yourself will kind of keep pushing the button, right? If you included, right? We had a conversation first a few months,
Mm.
maybe even a year back, where you were worried about your size and how you were going to develop. You did something for a bit, then you stopped. Then you came back in, you said, okay, let me try this. You started seeing change in terms of performance, in terms of the way you were kind of shaping up. And now I don't think with you it's vanity anymore. I think with you now it's just that feeling of
That's
I
right.
feel good about myself now. There's an innate amount of confidence that comes to every individual when they're fitter, right? And I can't explain that. That's just a self confidence that comes around. I've seen so many people not confident about themselves at all, whatever, they're constantly shy. The minute they become like fitter and fitter and they get better at themselves,
Mm.
suddenly that confidence is skyrocket. And then they can carry themselves out in a room. So half your battle's won, right? Think about it. When you kind of go out in the public, half your battle's won if you're physically confident about the way you carry yourself. And then everything else kind of flows from it. So my take on this is, don't kind of worry about why the person comes in. Get them through that
Mm.
door. Once they've kind of
Mm.
come in, then change their mindset. This fitness is a lifestyle. Fitness for me is just the way I'm going to live my life, right? It's just,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, only in India, from what I have seen, only in India is it a place where it's become like a luxury. Everywhere else in the
Mm.
world, it's a necessity. It's just a way of life. You get up, you brush your teeth, you go to work the same way. You go train, you go to work, you do everything you have to do, and no one really questions it. And hopefully we will get there as people, uh, and and then things will change. Things will hopefully be a lot better.
There are a few things you just said I want to dig a little deeper into, right? One of them was the fact
Yeah,
that how you feel physically in terms of how confident you feel. And most times people kind of relate that to how you look visually. Um, I think I've seen some
yeah,
people who are genuinely fit who might still not necessarily seem fit from the traditional sense, right? I mean, but they're so confident because they can kind of like,
yeah,
I think somehow the way you stand, the way you walk, everything kind of changes
yeah,
because you just you know how every part of your body is functioning. Um, and but that understanding is why a lot of people don't have the confidence to even start. Like I've spoken to people who've like, okay, there's no point, I haven't been physically fit for like 10-15 years. Is there any point in me
yeah,
starting? I anyway can't do all these things. No, maybe I should
yeah,
just go for a walk every day. And my response has been it's not visually there. And but that's a barrier, right? I mean, I'm sure you face that with a lot of people who kind of sign up.
yeah. No, so let's take this first, right? This is my biggest one of the questions I get, or one of the things I get a lot of is, I'm not fit enough to train. That, if you actually look at it, it's pretty ironic, right? If you were fit enough to train, then you would be training anyway. So you can never
Yeah.
become fit enough to train. You've got to go out there. The one thing that you want people to understand is that these people you look at and you say, I can't do what they're doing, they were as bad as you at some point in time in their life. Okay. They made the
Yeah.
effort. They went out there. They went through the grind, because it is a grind. Fitness is a grind. Fitness is not a
Yeah.
one stop, like, let's start today. Let's be in 2 months. I'll be where I want to be. Then I can stop again. No, it's a grind. It's like a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the one thing I tell people is, even when they come to camp, oh, I'm not fit enough for camp yet. I said, what does that even mean? Right? You're never going to be fit enough for camp unless you come to camp. You've got to come there and go through that to understand whether you can handle it or not. And yes, it will suck the first few times. You will not do it really well. You may feel like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? But as you
Mm.
keep going on, your body will adjust. Your mind will adjust, and you will start enjoying it. You will start feeding off energy. And that's the one thing you want people to do, right? I want this. One of the reasons why I kind of try and focus, and with, again, now I'm going to start focusing a lot more on beginners, is because you want to get rid of the stigma of training, right?
Yeah.
That to me is the one thing I feel is that people get very conscious, because I got conscious when I walked into the gym for the first time in my life at the age of 14 or 15. I was very conscious. I looked around left, right as I do. Am I okay? Should I do this? Is this okay? Does this look fine? Am I making a fool of myself? All these thoughts go through your head, right? And it goes through everybody's head who starts off for the first time. Why only with training? It's with everything in life, right? The first time you enter the room, you feel like awkward. You've got to kind of get there and mingle, and then you kind of become used to it. And it's the same thing with training. You've got to go in there. Um, Unfortunately, that stigma kind of weighs too heavily on people, and they don't want to go through that. So for me, it's about making the gym or making a training session a fun place. Because if they laugh, they fool around, they're not being yelled at, they're not being told off, they're not being saying, "You're not doing this properly, what are you doing?" Any of that. It's more like, we're buddies, we're going to chat, and we're going to get through this together, right? And that, when you kind of bring them in like that, really slowly, I think you see everyone kind of changing, and they want to come in more often. So for me, that is the most important thing. And once you can change that, I think you get a lot more people through the door.
The fun aspect actually is an important point, right? I feel that, and maybe it's how it's been ingrained into us from the time we were kids. Your physical education class in school was never really a fun thing. At least wasn't for me, right? It was very like, either it was regimented, military style, or it was like, I don't necessarily care. Or maybe I went to this kind of schools which had that problem. Wasn't
Yeah.
really like, okay, it's fine. It's an extracurricular activity. It's not necessarily a priority, right? And then you go to gyms where all you're seeing are people who are visually focusing on surface level stuff, but it's never fun. It's like you're just going through the monotony of it. So when you talk about fun and fitness, and this is a question I've been asked, because I sometimes talk about, I said I genuinely enjoyed it. I sometimes don't want to have a late night, not sometimes, most times don't want to have a late night, because I know I won't train as well in the morning, and I don't want to miss the fun that morning training is. um,
Yeah.
how do you explain to someone who says, how can fitness be fun? Because it's been ingrained into them, saying this is how it's always, it seems like too much work to be fun.
I mean, honestly, I think it all starts at home. When I've always kind of, my son, for example, okay, he's 6 years old today. When the pandemic hit, the first time I kind of had to start training at home, right? And I was training in front of him. I actually thought that was the best thing ever, because he suddenly saw me enjoying myself, listening to my music, feeling like I'm in a zone. He started copying me, right? And when he started copying me, he copied me with a smile on his face. It wasn't like he was like he was suffering through it. He was having a great time, right? That energy of a child is what is important, and it's what I want to bring out in every class. So it also depends on the kind of training that you kind of put people through, right? Uh, for me, it's not about, and it's not about, how much weight you've lost. That's my biggest issue. Once we kind of categorize training based on, oh, I have to diet, oh, I have to lose weight, oh, I have to do X, Y, and Z, you're making it confusing and conflicting for yourself. Make it about just expressing yourself. As strange as that sounds, go express yourself, be yourself. Don't worry about what anyone's saying or doing or watching. Don't look at your phone for that 1 hour. Just put on your favorite music and just go have a good time. I know that sounds really strange, because going through those movements and going through those exercises at some point feels like pain, but it's sweet pain. And anyone who's trained long enough will understand what I'm saying. It's sweet pain. It's a feeling of accomplishment. I didn't think I could do this, but you know what? I did it. And that feeling can't be replicated with anything else. What it also does over a period of time is it releases the right endorphins in your system, right? And that's scientifically proven. This is not me saying it. It's scientifically proven. And that itself puts you in a better mood. It gives you a high in terms of just being able to do things you didn't think you were able to do, the right endorphins, the right amount of serotonin in your body. You feel a lot better about yourself generally. And once that starts happening, then the gym becomes a fun place. And it also depends, honestly, it depends on how you train. There are people who go into a gym for 2 hours and an hour and a half and 3 hours and spend all the time in the world there. There are people who make it really effective, right? Make it effective, exactly what I need to do. I know I have a plan, I have a structure, I know what I'm working towards. Those people will be more successful. Everyone who has a plan ends up being more successful because they know exactly what they want to do and how they want to achieve it. So there's no wasting time.
Oh, I know exactly the people you're talking about. You've been in those gyms where one person will come do four bicep curls and just look at themselves for 10 minutes, walk around, chat with someone, and then come back to the next move. We've all seen those characters around, around gyms.
Man, sometimes I want to just like laugh.
Do you think that changed in the pandemic because we had to suddenly make it?
No, it doesn't change. Just doesn't change. There's still those people.
You just mentioned having a plan, right? I think that's an interesting one because oftentimes people connect having a plan to having a goal, and the goal is generally quantified, like you said, right? I want to lose this much weight, or I want to put on this percentage, or like someone's checking me, this is my body fat percentage. You're going down to the granular numbers. Like I, for instance, been a person who constantly questions if I want to actually wear a tracking device when I'm working out, or do I want to get that glucose monitor. And I sometimes wonder, is that me just trying to find a number to what I'm doing, or should I just kind of focus on how I'm feeling? um, how do you define a goal you set for yourself if you can't quantify it from weight in if you want to be fit? Because at the core level, that you do want to have a something you're working towards, but it shouldn't become just that number on the weighing scale. So how do you quantify that?
So my goals are different, right? My goals are always, and everyone I've ever spoken to has said, set fitness based goals for yourself, right? How much am I squatting today? How much do I want to squat 3 months later? Or how much can I bench today? How much do I want to bench 3 months later? Can I get 10 clean push ups? Can I get my pull ups done properly? Can I improve on that performance? Can I run 5 kilometers in under 25 minutes? These are goals that you need to set. I mean, you and I both are very fond of a gentleman called Darul. I wanted to crawl a mile
Yeah.
after watching him. I said, I'm going to crawl a mile. Now, that is not going to be quantified in any book when it comes to, whether it makes you look good or not. It was just, but it tests your fitness, right? Now, so for me, it's always been about setting the right kind of goals. I've never set goals like, how much am I going to weigh 6 months later, or I want to hit this particular fat percentage. I think those goals kind of come along the way as you start training regularly. You'll hit your goals if you'll hit those goals if you set yourself some nice, good fitness based goals and try and hit those. So the minute you start focusing on the right things happen. So for me, those are the kind of goals I want to set. Like I remember sitting down one day, and this was at camp with a bunch of people, and I was like, you know what? I just want to crawl a mile, and they were like, "You've gone bonkers." I said, "No, I just want to crawl a mile." And they're like, "Where do you think this mile is going to happen?" I said, "It'll happen on the road." They're like, "Sohrab, now," and sometimes you become more accountable if you said it to someone else, because then you're like, now I have to do it. So I purposely said it out loud to everyone at camp, saying, I'm going to crawl a mile. I'm going to do it this weekend, and I'm going to do it here. And they all thought I was crazy. After a point, some of them even messaged me the night before saying, are you really doing it? I said, yeah, I'm showing up. If I competed, great. If I don't, I don't. Right? So sometimes you've got to kind of just set those parameters for yourself and then just go out there and do it. And the feeling once you've achieved them is, I mean, I can't put words to it. It's just another level.
Yeah, I'm still trying to cross my 5K in 30 minutes target. I haven't come to 40 minutes though. Getting closer, getting closer. I feel also goals kind of become what you want to be fit for in life as well, right? Like for me, and I remember my first conversations with you was that, have a kid, have stuff I want to do at home. I don't want to be that person who can't like bend long enough, or can't like,
Yeah.
squat long enough, or just not be able to carry her around. And interestingly, I used to always get like lower back pain when I would carry her, lay around for too long. I recently went to Disneyland and I was actually put her on my shoulders for half an hour. Didn't feel a thing, right? And I kind of came back from that saying, "Often it's been going well in that sense." So um, I feel people often don't look at that as a goal. Like, just like I want to just do this in
Yeah.
my day to day life, and this is how it can help. Versus, oh, this is separate from what I do in my daily life. I think that separation sometimes I don't know people don't seem to be able to
Yeah.
figure out.
I'll give you one very simple example since you spoke about your daughter, right? Everyone talks to me about um, what is fitness, right? To me, the first question sometimes people ask is,
Mm.
what is fitness? What is fitness? What according to you is fitness?
Yeah.
And and for me, I told them a very simple thing. I said, I don't care if at the age of 50 or 60, I have a six pack. I don't care if I have bulging muscles. The only thing I want is when I'm about 50 years old, my son will be about 15 or 16. We both have an obsession for cricket. I'm pretty sure we'll be playing cricket. And I do not want him to be better than me or outrun me, even if he is 15, 16 years old and I am 50. To me, that is fitness. And if I
Mm.
get there at that age of 50 or 51 and I can have a great game with my son where he looks at me and says, okay, listen, my dad doesn't really get tired. He will keep coming back to kick my
Mm.
ass. Great. You know what? I'm fit and I'll take that over anything else.
I think that's perfect. I mean, and honestly, that I think has been the switch that flipped for me a while back. It used to be about so many other things, but just that flip of saying this is how I want to be and continue to be, or even like better than what I am right now, is what's actually. And I feel that's almost a movement that's happened over time, right? I'm seeing more and more people looking at it that way and not necessarily look at it just like something they have to do. And also, then there's you who had a career as a lawyer, and I want to get into that. Saying you were, how did that change happen in your mind? How do you want to kind of shift from saying, okay, I'm a lawyer. Physical fitness obviously has been a core part of what I've always loved, but now I want to just do this. How did that switch happen for you?
Good question. I should be asking myself that question every single day. I think my parents still ask me that question. How did that switch happen? Like, what exactly went wrong? I think my mother's still in shock, to be honest. Poor thing, bless her. Um, it was
Mm,
it was just about following your heart, yeah, Varun. At some point in life, I think you reach a stage where you're fed up of just going along in the rat race, right?
mm,
I don't know if that makes sense to people, but I just got tired, right? I got tired of, okay, now what next and what next and what next? And I started working at a very young age. I started working at the age of 18. I was in a law firm as a law student, and I worked through my 5 years of law school. And then I started working from day one. So I didn't know what it was like to even go to college. I went to the 12th standard, went into law school, started
mm,
working as an intern, and everything's been. I've been in an office since I was 18 or 19 years old, every day of my life. Um, and growing up at that point in time, I think the only thing you want as a lawyer is to make partner in a law firm. I mean, what is there beyond that
yeah.
for a corporate lawyer? Um, so I was sitting down and I was going to be made partner in the law firm I was working in, and I was sitting down for lunch with my managing partner. He took me out for lunch. Um, Really nice guy, absolutely love him. And he was sitting and talking to me about how I was going to be put up as the next partner for capital markets in the
Mm,
firm, and I just looked blank. Like I just felt blank. I was like, has this been what I started working at the age of 18 for? Like, is this what it is? Because I'm not feeling anything right now. Like I'm not even like interested in this conversation. Uh, so I came back home. I spoke to my parents. I spoke to my wife. I spoke to my family, and I just I couldn't get my head around it. I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Like there is a limit you reach where like now I just want to follow my heart. I did what I thought was right. Right? I did what I thought was the right thing to do by society. I went and became a lawyer. I worked in top law firms across India and in Singapore. I have come back now. I have done it. Now I want to go follow something else. Like I want to help people. I want to be there for people. I want to see people improve their lives. And I don't think I can do that being a lawyer anymore. Uh, I mean, I can't thank my family, my wife enough, my friends. Uh, Not one person questioned me at that point in time, even though they may have wanted to 1,000 times over. Not one of them actually
Yeah.
questioned me and said, "You know what, you want to do it, go ahead and do it. Right? Just go for it. Um, Give yourself that shot, and we'll see what happens a year, 2 years down the line."
Mm.
And that was it. It was just like I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have any
Mm.
fixed notion about what was going to happen. I just said I'm gonna back myself. I'm going to counter myself, and
Yeah.
I'm going to see where this ends up. And fitness has been something that I was passionate about since I was 9 years old. I was studying even while I was a lawyer, and no one really knew about it. I was just
Mm.
studying for myself. So that kind of just flowed in, and I said, you know what, I'm going to take a chance on myself. I think everyone should at some point in their life take a chance on themselves. I've been the good boy since I was 18 years old, going into a law firm, sitting there working every single day of my life. It was time to kind of shift the balance and give myself a little loving and do exactly what I wanted to do. And that was it.
And then you set off to make sure that you did go and get trained, and you move towards that. You didn't just generally just go towards, okay, I'm just going, this is what I'm just going to do. You chose to kind of go and studied. But the choices you made aren't traditionally what the choices you would make in this space in India. At least wasn't then, I'm sure. I mean, the things which I remember is you chose to look at ways for recovery and movement, and you looked at slightly what was considered non-mainstream in that space. So you why did that gravitation happen? Why did you kind of gravitate towards stuff that was, I mean, at least at that point in time wasn't really mainstream, but now totally makes sense?
I blame my Parsi genes. No, I'm kidding. It, it was more to do with the fact that I didn't want to be just a trainer, right? I think
Mm.
the one thing I've always wanted to kind of distinguish from was I wanted to be a coach. Now, a coach is very different from a trainer. A coach is someone who's there, yes, to help you in the gym, make you better, uh, but also someone who's there for you outside the gym, who is there for you emotionally. Think about this, right? You meet your coach or your trainer more than you meet your best friend in a week. Even if you train 3 times a week
Yeah.
or 4 times a week and train for an hour, you don't meet your best friend 4 hours in a week. Very rarely that you do.
Yeah.
So you can't just be a trainer. You've got to be a little more. You've got to be that friend. And for me, I go all in with each one of my students. I'm emotional with them. I am more interested in their well-being than possibly they are. I want them to do better. I want them to do better than me. In fact, I want them to kind of outlift me if it's possible. Um, and their success is my success. And once you kind of do that, I think everything just works out. So I wanted to kind of work on that. I did not want to go just teach people how to lift weight. I mean, come on, everyone knows how to lift weight. Okay,
Yeah.
it's what is setting me apart from everyone else out there. If I'm just going to go teach them how to lift weight and what rep range to work on, I was obsessed with Kelly Starrett. I still am. I have two mentors when it comes down to the fitness space, or my two biggest mentors, or three of them. One of them is Kelly Starrett. I'm absolutely obsessed with him. Daruk is the second guy, absolutely obsessed with him. I love the fact that these guys focus so much on movement, on using your own
Exactly.
body to help your body. Uh,
Mm.
and uh, those are the guys I follow. Those are the guys I kind of gravitated towards, um, because I think fitness is more than just lifting weight. Fitness is so much more in so many different ways. And I always was interested in teaching people something that I liked. Right? It would be
Mm.
I'd be like really like hypocritical if I didn't enjoy training, but I'm training someone. So I wanted
Yeah.
fitness to be fun. Like I've always said, I wanted to be entertaining. I wanted to be interesting. I wanted it to be the best 1 hour of your day. And whatever I could do, think out of the box to get there, I would. And that's what I did. I just tried to think out of the box. I just kind of picked things that intrigued me, and then I went for it.
What should people know about movement? Because I feel oftentimes I think most people don't know how valuable it is to understand movement, and how to, like, not just look at like recovery, but how do you stretch, how do you before you work out, how do you recover post that, and all that stuff is actually where I feel all the oh my god, I'm feeling so sore, I can't walk after leg day, or like my lower back is hurting. All that come from those things. And I remember that when you first introduced me to Kelly as well, I literally go to that I think Instagram account, YouTube channel so often whenever I have like neck pain or shoulder pain, something that's kind of come in there. But what should people understand about just like what movement does to the way you perform in life, and just that core fundamental which is often missed?
Look at it this way, right, Baran? Human beings were designed to live 100 years. Okay, if we actually
Mm,
go back to civilization and we look back, human beings lived for 100 years, no problem, right?
mm,
Uh,
yeah,
and they lived because they moved. They didn't have a TV and the internet and a computer to sit in front of all day. They just moved. Even for their food, they had to go looking for their food. Their food didn't come to their doorstep, right? They had to go hunt for their food. And if you look at some of the fittest people, or some of the people in my mom and my grandmom's generation, they lived to 90, 95, 100 even, right? God bless my
yeah,
grandmother's soul. She died at the age of 99. But I mean, 99, and she was possibly more active than I was, right?
yeah,
And that to me is fitness. That to me is, you know, because we were designed to live that kind of life, and what the modern world has done to us, it's kind of slowed us down. Uh, that's the
mm,
problem. That's the effect of not moving. We're all the effect or the consequence of not moving. Every one of us, right? My mom is 80 years old today, and the woman goes to the High Court every single day. She went through the pandemic. She went to office every single day. Uh, and I look at her sometimes. I'm like, Mom, don't you want to take a break? She's like, No, this is what keeps me going. This is what has not let me age over the last few years. The fact, if I kept her at home and said, just sit at home, rest, relax, don't move, watch TV, chill out, it's your time to chill in life, she would have aged 10 years in the last 2 years, right? Because she was able to move,
yeah,
because she was able to go do all the things she loved doing, her mind stayed fresh, her body stayed fresh.
mm,
She can still outwalk me. My mother will outwalk me any day of the week. But that's because I find walking boring. For her, that is her exercise. That's her movement. It's awesome for her.
mm,
So I don't like categorizing movement into a particular kind. I think you should do what you love doing. If that is dancing, go dance. If that's playing a sport, go play sport. If that's working out, go work out. But move every single day, because that's what your body is designed to do. Your body is not designed to sit on a chair. It's not. I mean, just look at the way the body has been created. Go back to like ancient civilization and look at the hunter gatherers. They never sat on chairs. One of the best things to
mm.
sit on, actually, if you really want to sit, is sit on the ground with your legs cross-legged. That will show you. And I promise you, not many people can do that for more than 10 or 15 minutes, because their body's so used to
I
sitting on
can't.
a chair, they become
I'm
stiff.
starting to do it now.
So now I've made that. So this is again thanks to Kelly, and I've made that a conscious effort. Now I eat my dinner sitting down on the floor with my legs cross-legged. I take Zoom calls sitting down on the floor with my legs cross-legged, because that helps. That actually opens out your joints. So um, I think that is very, very important. And that's what people need to do. Just kind of keep moving, right? Look at even, now actually there used to be a saying in fitness. It's called RICE, right? When you kind of hurt yourself, they say go with the RICE method, which is rest, ice, compress,
Mm,
elevate. Now that's changed. RICE doesn't exist anymore. It's move, right? So they basically ask you to do the compression and the elevation, but they ask you to move, because movement is what is going to solve your injury. And that's the kind of people I like associating with. So even if the physios I work with, or anyone, if anyone tells me to stop moving, I'll stop going to them, because for me that's not a solution. You figure out a way to make me move. That's my most important thing.
Explain the compression and elevation part for someone who doesn't get what how that works.
What basically happens is, when you go through a swelling, right? Let's say you've injured yourself. I injured myself. Okay, I'll take my example, because I twisted my ankle and I torn ligaments
Mm.
in my ankle. And it was the size of a football. My ankle was huge. Um, I remember the first day I was really upset, and I was icing it, and I was just icing it.
Mm.
And I messaged Kelly on Instagram, and I said, "This has happened, um, and I don't know how I'm going to kind of get myself back right now. They say it's a grade 2 tear." He said, "Sort of throw the ice pack away,
Mm.
get a little bit of a floss band or a compression band. You get those, wrap it around the particular injured area. So compress that injured area and then release it. Because what happens, all the junk that's piled up, every time you get injured, junk piles up as far as the blood's concerned, and that blood needs to flow out for fresh blood to come in and release that, I mean, to heal the injury. So that's what compression does. So then I spent the next, I don't know, months just constantly compressing, releasing as much blood flow as I possibly could in that area, and it actually got my swelling down drastically in a couple of weeks. And so that's compression. So you just want to kind of compress, not leave the area open. And secondly is elevate. What they basically try to do, especially when you're injured as far as your legs concerned, and in my case it was my leg, it was trying to raise the leg above heart level, because that means the blood's not constantly flowing down, it's also coming back. So that's what we try to do with, that's what you try to do with most injuries: compress and elevate.
I ask that because I feel oftentimes the more we understand how our bodies function, what can get us out of an injury, a niggle, like it's like I think that the most number of messages I would have sent to you would have been about, okay, my shoulder hurts when I wake up in the morning, or I have neck pain because I was sitting in front of the desk for too long. And you'd always send me a few things to kind of check out. But the more that happened, the more I dug into it and tried to understand which parts. And at some point, that realization that when your neck hurts, not necessarily your neck, that's the problem. It's actually your traps, and it originates from
Yeah.
there, and you go deeper into that. And I feel that, like you said, you need to go deeper into the information, like how you would in anything you do in life, for you to understand how your body can function, how we can kind of evolve. um, do you feel that also works on the other side from a headspace point of view, like how if you go deeper into how you can build the right kind of motivation to do this every day? Because I feel it's very easy to give up fitness, and it becomes tougher
Yeah.
to pick it up again. um, do you think going deeper into it helps kind of build the right kind of mindset to kind of be consistent, no matter what happens, even if you have like a few days off, even if you say, okay, I didn't work out for 2 days, now I don't know if I'll work out for the rest of the week, versus I didn't work out for 2 days, I'm definitely going to make sure I work out today because I'm missing that. How do you switch from that point to this point?
That's when you make fitness a lifestyle, right? When you stop judging your fitness based on the way your body is going to look at a particular wedding or a beach holiday. When you
Yeah.
start doing that, you change the needle, right?
Yeah.
I think most of us and most people around the world judge their fitness based on, uh, how they're going to look when they go to the Maldives or when they go to Goa. That is their benchmark, or
Yeah.
what they're going to wear at a friend's wedding. I think that kind of is something that people need to let go of, right? Now, getting into details and getting into real depth of your own fitness works for some people. Some people like the details. Some people like the information and the knowledge. There are nerds out there. I call them workout nerds or fitness nerds.
I'm putting my hand up right now just to say that I'm one of those now.
I am definitely one of those. I want to know what food is affecting my body, what it is doing to my blood, what this exercise is going to do to me, how am I going to feel. I want to know every single thing, right? And
Mm.
for those people, information is great. It's a great source of inspiration to keep going again. Okay. There are some people
Mm.
for whom too much information is too much information. you don't want to give them that information because they're not interested. Then you have to kind of change what those parameters are for those people. And it's for you as the coach to make their life easier. It is for you as the coach to make it interesting for them. I think the one thing I have learned when I kind of coach people now is I may go in with my own plans, right? But I think a coach also has to be someone who can perceive the the emotion or what the other person's feeling at that point in time. You may go in with the best plan to train them, but they may be in a completely different headspace, and you've got to change. You've got to kind of adapt to them to make sure you can get the best out of them on that particular day. And that happens a lot, right? No one comes into a session perfectly tuned to go all out on a particular day. It's you as the coach who needs to make that switch. Um, and that to me is important. Um, I think give information to people who want the information. Again, it becomes your job to understand whether if I'm training you, Varun, I know, okay, he will like this information. He will want to know how his sleep has affected his training the next day, or he would want to look at him and say, okay, my recovery wasn't great yesterday. How can I change that workout? Now, that kind of information will help you. I may be able to tweak it, and then suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, I want to do this, right? I'm good to do this. Whereas someone else may be like, oh, my recovery was not very good yesterday. I shouldn't train at all, right? So the information you give people also depends on whether they can take that information or they can't take that information. Some people look for an excuse to step away anyway. So by giving them that excuse, they're going to step away if you give them that chance. So don't, right? Um, I think you've got to kind of feed the right information to the right people and then kind of use it to your advantage. If you use it to your advantage, it's great. I love data. I'm sorry. I just love data.
Yeah. I'm still like I said, I'm still gauging if I need to get myself that glucose monitor, but I'm still like I'm holding back from like I don't want to go deep data that far, but I feel I will succumb eventually to adding as many metrics onto my body as possible.
We'll talk about that separately. I have some interesting insights on that. We'll talk about that.
Another core part which I feel is often spoken about, I mean, much lesser than it needs to. I think it's getting finally getting a voice out there is community, right? The
Yeah.
more you find yourself in a community of people who want to stay fit, the more you also want to make this. That's where the fun comes from. One of the core things, and you mentioned this, right, is that switch for me was that when I became part of a core community. I remember when we did the strength program, and I'm like, it was almost like you were competing in a fun way, and every day there was a thing and there would be banter, but you'd also kind of see how much everybody is doing. You're pushing each other to kind of do this right. You're also pushing each other. You're also not like putting someone down when they don't do it right. It And I feel there's something so positive about a community focused on fitness that is so underrated, but it is one of the best things you can have. I know that's been a core focus for you since you started Sohfit. um, what do you think the best elements of building a fitness community are? Because if you want to build that circle around you to make sure that you stay on this lifestyle, where do you kick that off from?
I mean, community is goes to the very core of Sohfit. It's when some of my closest friends, even today, are the boys I used to work out with. Because yeah, I was explaining this to someone the other day. The feeling of training with someone where you just let go and you have fun and you don't have any inhibitions. You're just training. You're going up against your buddy. You can develop some really serious good bonds with those people because suddenly you have something in common, right? Uh, for me, community is very important. I don't think Sofit would be where it is. I don't think I would be where I am today if we didn't focus on the community. Uh, I think the one thing I saw missing when I came back to India from Singapore uh, was the gyms were still the same. Right? You went into a gym, you had someone who was serious about their training and was doing it, someone who just came in there to chat and socialize, someone who was a mixture of both. But you didn't really have connections. You didn't really have friends. You didn't really have someone you can go talk to, or someone you can
Mm.
discuss or bounce ideas off, and then do a workout together and help each other out. And that's very very prevalent outside India. right? When I lived in Singapore, that was just
Mm,
like a norm. People would go jog together, they'd go cycle together, they'd go train together. Everything kind of happened together. And I felt that you became more accountable when you were doing it with
mm,
someone else as opposed to when you're doing it alone. Because when you're doing it alone, you can say, Chal, I'll start tomorrow, or let's do it day after,
yeah.
or next Monday. And that Monday never comes, right? In when you're doing it with someone else, there is no tomorrow. You can't ditch them all the time, right? At some point, they will give you a kick. But my point is, I wanted to create a bunch of, I wanted to bring together a bunch of people who enjoyed fitness, uh, who enjoyed training, who would be there for you on a really crappy day and would celebrate with you when you were having a great day. And to me, I think
Mm,
that was very, very important. I can't even stress the importance that having that tribe, having that community gives you in your own fitness journey, right? That journey can be a very lonely
yeah.
place. And if you don't have the right kind of people supporting you and walking through with you, it could get really lonely. So that's what we wanted to do. I think community was awesome. It was a very simple example we had the other day. We trained. Now you've been on one of our programs. We have people on WhatsApp groups together. There's a bunch of girls
Mm,
who've been training on the same WhatsApp group for the last year together. Never seen each other.
mm.
Stay in different parts of the US. They just went last weekend to Vegas together for a girls' night. 20 of them. I mean,
That's
what
so
more
cool.
can you want? What more can you ask for? That is, they've never met each other. They've only spoken to each other on WhatsApp. They've gone for a Vegas girls trip together. Hats off to them, yeah. I absolutely loved it. That to me was a high point as far as Sohfit is concerned.
Yeah, and then also like I think one of the things that's really happened, I feel especially since the we all had to move online to doing this, is that you now in many ways, while you took away the physicality of being in the same space together, it's suddenly made this like a global community, right? You can have people in different countries, different places, but you all kind of connect on a few singular things. Um, do you find that tricky to balance if you have people from different parts of the world? I mean, a core part of that is because on one end you're focusing on the core fundamentals, but you're also running something that is bringing people together. You have to gauge that. How much do you have to balance your own head between coach and entrepreneur, if that's the balance which is there, which you kind of do both? How do you find that balance?
That's I'm always a coach. I leave the entrepreneurship to my wife. I'm very lucky I have her as my business partner. And she knocks sense into me from time to time. But you know what? What I've kind of realized, Varun, over time is I'm not a moral police. I don't tell people what to do, what to say, how to talk. That is not my job. Yes, I don't want anyone kind of getting abusive or anyone being rude to anybody, and that's when I will step in. But otherwise, let people be. We're amazing people. I mean, all human beings are amazing. Give them an opportunity to go mingle with someone else, and you see a different side to them. So even on these groups,
Mm,
we just let them have fun. We want them to create those bonds. We want them to talk, even if they talk rubbish, it's fine. I mean, they're not offending anybody.
mm,
They're just fooling around. They're having a good time.
yeah,
They're making fun of each other. Big deal. So who doesn't make fun of someone? So for me,
exactly.
I love being the coach. I love seeing them, get along. I love it when they correct each other. I love it when they're there for each other because that's what I want. I want people
Mm,
to connect. I want people from different parts of the world to connect. We are in such a lonely place. I mean, the pandemic made us realize that even more, right? Now we're all kind of sitting in our own
mm,
homes in front of our own screens. Come on, go out there and get to know new people. I mean, my biggest life experiences and everything I've learned in my life is from the people I've met. It's not from what I've studied in the
mm,
books, right? Like out of syllabus, let's use that as a line. Everything I've kind of
yeah,
learned has been from the people I've met. It's not from my books.
yeah,
And I think you become richer in experience after you meet more people and you interact with more people. And that's what I want these people to understand. Different cultures, different people, different backgrounds, different health goals, just working together. It's amazing. For me, it's beautiful.
And I think that one common factor, I think, between all of us, beyond the fact that we all look at fitness maybe sometimes in different ways because of our backgrounds, is how we look at food. I feel what unites all of us is that we have overthought food way more than anything else. What are you putting on that plate? How are you measuring? I think that that discussion is like, it's never ending. Also, and I remember that was the first chat you and I had when I called you and I said, I'm an ectomorph. So I don't put on weight and I don't want to figure out how to do this. And you were like, how are you so sure? Like, you literally said, okay, don't go into categories, just focus on what you need to kind of eat and keep it simple. But we do overthink nutrition, don't we? Although it's quite simple if you look at it.
We overthink everything. That's what human beings do, right? Um, I, in my life, okay, the one thing I've learned is the simpler you keep it, the easier it is to follow. The easier it is to follow, the more consistent you will be. The more consistent you are, the more results you will see. It's it's that simple, right? I remember, I don't know who told me this, but I remember someone told me to stick to the KISS principle, which is keep it super simple. If you do that in life, with food, with your training, with your work, with everything, things will happen. I think
Mm.
fitness has been complicated where everyone's trying to be the new thing, everyone's trying to introduce the new cool thing when the old methods work. And there's a reason they work because they've been done over and over again. Even with food, all these fancy new diets and this and that, simple things work. Go back, have your fruits and vegetables, eat your meat, balance your plate out, don't cut out on your carbs, don't starve yourself. It works. It's just that simple and it will always work.
Because we also know what's healthy and what's not, right? Innately, I think we all know if what we're eating is healthy or not. It's just finding that balance for yourself by just trying things out. Like, um, I remember just the how you look at your plate, and I remember this clearly, is that you just look at your plate and saying how much of that is vegetables, how much of that is carb, how much of that is protein. Just measure that out. I felt that that was the simplest way to look at it versus, okay, let me just overthink every single meal, um, give myself a hard time when I cheat, because we will all cheat. I mean, you cannot not have a cheat meal from time to time, but it's just, again, that guilt. Although you do want to do it and you will end up doing it, that guilt that rides over, and then you let the guilt take over and say, see, I can't be disciplined with this anyway.
No, you gotta enjoy it. I mean, for me, I think uh, I've never gotten upset with people when they go out and eat what they want to. I think every human being should, but
Mm.
don't drive yourself crazy, right? If you've eaten something, enjoy it, right? There's no point saying, I've eaten this, now I'm going to feel bad about it and no this. No, you've eaten it, enjoy it, right? Enjoy every moment in life. Life's too short. It's too short to sit there and kind of constantly be worried about what you've eaten. So like you said, every human being today knows exactly what is good for them and what is not good for them. Okay. Your job as a coach is to maybe remind them from time to time and let them make their own decisions.
Mm.
I want people to make their own decisions. How long are you going to handhold someone for the rest of their life? You can't. We can't even handhold our own kids for the rest of their life. After they're 16, 17, they want to go. They're like, dude,
That's
thank you, dad and mom. I'm out. Right? So why are you trying to handhold a bunch of 30 and 40-year-olds? It makes no sense. Give them the right information. They're all smart enough. Tell them what the right tools are and let them play around with it. And even when you want to go up there and eat that piece of cake or have that pizza or that pasta, go do it guilt free, right? Don't sit there and say, oh my God, I had a piece of pizza. So what? You had it. Now move on, right? New day, start again. Start focusing on your macros again. Eat the right kind of food. Don't worry about weighing it. Just go train, go move, get that started. Everything will happen. And the one thing I've noticed is the more you move, the better food choices you make.
Mm.
When you stop moving, that's when the food choices kind of go a little crazy, right? So most people mess up on a weekend. Why? Because they don't train on the weekend. They train through the week. They're good through the week. They go on the weekend, they go out and have fun, and they should. I'm totally for it. Go and have fun. You've got to do that, because if you don't do that, you'll suffer.
What's the best piece of advice you ever got, just in terms of when you were making choices in your life?
Best piece of advice I've ever got. I think I'm still waiting for it. No, I'll tell you my advice that I will never ever forget. There are two pieces of advice. I got it from Mr. Ajay Piramal. He's been my mentor since my law school days. He is someone I go to when I'm in trouble, or I go to when I'm thinking about career choices. And he's always been there for me. I remember one of the first people I told that I was going to make a career switch was him. Um, and he's been part of my partnership conversations and everything. And I thought he was going to fire me, because I went to him. I said, "Ajay, uncle, I just don't want to do the law anymore." Like, I thought he was going to say, "What is wrong with you? Leave the whatever." He said, "I'm going to be your first student." Right? That's what he told me. He said, "Great. When you're doing this, I'm going to be your first student." To me, that was a breath of fresh air, right? Someone who was willing to back you to kind of go follow your dreams. But he told me this. I was asking him once, and I'd already started training him when I was a lawyer, just because I used to love chatting with him, and I still do. And we went for a walk on one of our training days. And he told me something very simple. He said, Saurabh, the road less traveled with more risks is the one that's going to be more fulfilling at the end of the day, right? It's very easy to go down a road everyone goes down. It's very easy to, avoid the risks and live the safe life. But if you want more reward, you've got to take more risk. So I took that to heart. I said, okay, then I'm going to take that risk. I'm going to take that risk on myself. And who better to kind of take a risk on than yourself? And the second thing he told me in the same conversation, same day, we were walking, and I said, what, Ajay uncle, what's the worst thing that happens? If this doesn't work out, I'll go back to being a lawyer, right? That's the worst thing that's going to happen. And he looked at me and he said, what, Saurabh, forget about being a lawyer now. It's done. Burn that bridge, because when you have a safety net in the back of your head, you've already set yourself up for failure. When you have nothing to lose, you give it everything you have, right? So don't have that safety net. Just say, okay, this is done now. I'm not going back to this. This is my life, and I need to make whatever I need to do it. I'm going to do it. I think I've lived with that for the last 5 years. I have just never looked back at being a lawyer. And every day is just to get up, go ahead, do what needs to be done to kind of do what you need to do.
I can keep going on with this, but I genuinely always make sure that there's a clock which I have in mind for a conversation. And I always leave things for part two with all my guests. But before I close off, I want to ask you, how do you take a pause? What is taking a pause for you?
Spending time with my kids. For me, I don't need anything else. I just had a baby boy 3 months back. Just spending time with the two boys. I've always been like, I've always wanted to be a dad. Strange as that sounds. But just spending time with them, watching them laugh, watching them do their thing, and just without a care in the world. To me, I don't think I can have a better moment. So me and my son watch every cricket game together, because we're both cricket buffs. If I miss the game the next day because I've been busy with work, he will come and tell me exactly what happened and who scored and who didn't. And to me, that's life. Yeah, there's nothing more to life. All this other stuff that we do around, doing well and working and being really busy, I think just being with your kids is amazing.
I couldn't agree more with that. I literally, before we hit record on this one, had to go and tell Leia that I'm going to do a recording. I'll be back with 1 hour. We're going to have our. I generally spend time with her before she goes down to play in the building, and I was like, 1 hour I'm going to be there, which is also why I time it to the hour. So I'm on that boat as well. Thanks so much, Saurabh. Thanks for doing
Yeah.
this. It was
Thank
awesome,
you.
and I feel at some point there's a pace to a conversation which is always fun, and it always keeps you wanting to talk more and more. I think we'll take some of these offline, but I kind of see that this is an evolving conversation that might come back for another episode. I hope that chat gave you enough value for you to dig deep into how you can make fitness a part of your day to day lifestyle. Lots more like this coming up. A bunch of surprises just on the corner, only for people who subscribe. And also, if you smash the bell icon, extra points for you on that one. So, till that happens, see you guys the next one.